I worked really hard today trying to do some live streamings, and something's wrong with my microphone or something. So, anyways, figured I'd just try it this way, straight out of the box. Anyways, today we're talking about tips, topics, and trips in the sales department. And that's basically what we're going to talk about every week: tips, trips, and topics. So, trips, not getting into on plane to Cancun. I mean, tripping and falling flat on your face as a salesperson. And as a salesperson, I'd like you to raise your hand if you ever tripped up. I can't tell you how many times I should be raising my hand. I've been in sales all my life. In the last 30 years, I've been sales trainer in Dallas, actually working companies all over the world. But interesting, there's some simple things I look at sales that make it a little different. It's not that little trick on how to overcome objections or closing the account, um, building rapport. All that stuff to me is a bunch of garbage, because I get in the business of sales for one reason. Actually, when I was young, I got into business sales to make money, and still that's a great byproduct. But my problem is I'd get in front of people all the time, and I'd just open my mouth and throw up on them, right, with all the stuff I knew. And the thing, one word I got to tell you that I used that made a huge difference in my life, and that was being observant, right? Are you observant? You got to observe different things. And I bring this up because I thought it was a funny story, or not a funny story. One of my favorite movies is Sherlock Holmes. And love watching this guy and deduce things, picking up clues that, where did he get that clue from? And watched a show the other night where he solved the mystery. And when he got done solving the mystery, they said to him, "So how'd you figure that out?" And he said, "Well, it was the dog." I said, "What dog?" "The dog didn't bark or do anything. The dog didn't do anything. So what are you talking about?" And he said, "Because the dog did not bark, it means that it was someone that was familiar, someone he knew and loved, that came into the house and murdered whoever was murdered." And so his observation of something that did not happen. How good are we at observing things that happen, much less things that don't happen that should have happened? And so, really think, as a great salesperson, you got to be observant. And what stops us from being observant? Probably sitting there and telling people everything we want to know about our product and or service and or us, keeping our mouth going as opposed to shutting it. It's hard to observe when you're the one talking. So if you are observant and taking notes and listening, you're less likely to be talking. But I get it. We get hired by a company and we learn how great their product is and all these wondrous things it can do to help people. And you can't wait to get in front of someone and say, "Oh, I can help you," right? And I'm the same way. I mean, if someone says, "I got a problem," I can't wait to say, "Oh, I can solve it." We love helping people. The problem is, are you love helping people or do you love selling people? And in reality, I think you got to get back down to um, why you're in business in the first place. And it took me a while. As a young kid, I was in business to make money, and I couldn't wait to sell things, the thrill of selling something. But when I got older, I started learning that the truth in that Emerson's law of compensation, if you've never read it, probably interesting thing to read, basically says you can make as much money in America as you want by helping other people get what they want first. So if you figure that out and you truly understand that, you wouldn't be opening your mouth before you find out what other people want first, and you'd be more observant. So the trick today, I think, is to really get to being observant. And the way to train yourself in being observant is have a notebook with you wherever you go and observe. If you're driving a car, I'm not saying get in a crash, but if you're driving a car, observe what's going on around you. If you're in a train, observe different people. Make observations. If you're just sitting in an office, if you're sitting outside with your dog, observe different things that are happening and make note of it. And what you're doing is training your brain to look at the unobvious. As Sherlock Holmes looked at, that something did not happen, there was no sound, so therefore it's a problem. Are we doing the same thing? See, what happens is in sales, we get a little emotional. And when you're talking to a prospect and a prospect goes, I guess so. If we were observant, we would have saw that person go, turn their head, shut their eye a little, and go, huh. If we're not observant, we go, great, so let me show you. And you move forward. But if you're observant, you saw that, and you might observe it well enough to know, sounds like maybe you're not as excited about this, and maybe I'm going down the wrong path. Let me back up a minute. What are you really interested in? See, my observation creates a much stronger rapport by stopping, shutting up, and saying, are we going in the right place? As opposed to keep going down that path. The only way that happens is you're more interested in them than you are in yourself. So some tricks I would give you: be observant, have a notepad with you, especially when you're going on a sales call and meeting somebody, and observe. Sit in the lobby, observe what's going in the lobby, people walking in and out of the lobby. Observe what's happening, what's going on in the lobby. Observe the different people as you're walking down the hallway to someone's office. Observe what's going on in that person's office. Maybe the type of trash cans they have, right? I saw one the other day where a person had a trash can that was basically a small golf bag. And so the first thing I looked at him and I said, so does that mean you hate golf or you love golf? Do you think it's garbage or you don't think it's garbage? Right? And if you're a golfer, you'd laugh at that. And obviously this guy was a golfer. But I observed a trash can and made a comment, not having to talk about what they're doing. I observe what people have on their bookshelves when I walk in an office. See if she has on the book, maybe 2 or 3 business books up there that I have already read. I could easily make a comment about that book. Oh, that's a great book, that Jim Collins, Good to Great. I love the flywheel chapter. And now we're talking about something that this person felt important. How do I know it was important? Because over the years, I observed that people that have books in their bookshelves don't keep the books they don't like up there, especially in their office. It's the books that made a difference that are still on their bookshelves. So me reading a lot of books, I can get into that. That's one thing. The other thing I want you to think about is be observant in someone's industry. Yeah, it's easy now that when you get an appointment with someone to Google their website and look at them. But why don't you go a step further? Be observant of the industry they're in. See, if someone's in a bottling manufacturer or something like that, you can do interesting research, observe what's happening in the bottling industry at this moment. And now when you're talking to someone, you can talk about the industry as a whole, as opposed to just focused on this one company just about making a sale. So today's world, it's about being observant. Take a notebook with you. Take notes. At the end of every day, have at least 4 or 5 things you observe throughout the day about anything. It doesn't have to be with a client or anything else. 4 or 5 things you observe. You start doing that, you're training your brain to be more like Sherlock Holmes, picking up things, and you'll start seeing little nuances much quicker than just glossing over them. So that's it for today. Next week's tip, something totally different. Hope that helped, but be observant and you'll be a much better salesperson. Easier and quicker than trying to overcome objections. See you next week.